The Forgotten World, Number 1, The Emerald Tablet, by P.J. Hoover. Chapter 1. The Mirror Comes to Life. When Benjamin Holt saw his mum disappear into a pinprick of light, he shouldn't have been surprised. His life was already weird. What with him and his best friend Andy constantly arguing over what was better, telepathy or telekinesis, he knew he didn't lead a normal life. But vanishing into thin air, this hit the top of the freak-out scale. Hidden behind his bedroom door, Benjamin stared at the spot where she'd been. And then he looked at the picture, the one she'd had her palm on as she disappeared. They'd had the Velvet Tiger picture forever, and, to the best of Benjamin's knowledge, it had never before sucked anyone else into nothingness. 3 minutes went by. Still no mum. Benjamin walked over and tapped the hideous tiger picture with his finger. Nothing. And so he dared to put his own palm on it. This is when Benjamin decided he must have been dreaming, because when he looked down, his feet were still firmly planted on the ground. And so he decided, since he was still sleeping, to go back to bed. No sooner had Benjamin gone back to his room and crawled into bed, his mirror started talking. "Benjamin Holt?" the unfamiliar voice asked. "Do I have the right house?" Benjamin bolted upright. He hadn't had time to fall back asleep, so he knew the voice couldn't be a new dream. But he'd for sure dreamed the picture thing, so the mirror just must be more of the same. That made sense. He pinched himself, hard, to check, and it hurt. Not a dream. "Benjamin Holt, get up," the voice said. Benjamin threw the covers off and walked to the mirror. If the thing didn't shut up, he'd toss it out the window, and then get some sleep. But then he actually looked at the mirror and jumped when he saw a man looking back at him. "What in the world?" Benjamin asked, taking a few steps, maybe 10 steps backwards. "Ah, there you are. Why are you still sleeping? Today is the big day," the man said, as if that explained everything. "What big day?" Benjamin asked, pinching himself again. It still hurt. "Why, your first day of summer school," the man announced, grinning from ear to ear. "Summer school?" Benjamin exclaimed, now continuously pinching his arm. Not only did it hurt, it started turning red. But Benjamin didn't care. His mum had vanished into thin air, there was a strange man in his mirror, and to top it off, the man thought Benjamin was going to spend his summer in a classroom. But the man kept smiling. "My name is Proteus Ajax, and I am here to invite you to summer school." "I'm not going to summer school," Benjamin replied, crossing his arms over his chest. The man crossed his own arms and stared back. His wide smile began to look less like a smile and more like clenched teeth. "It's not really a request, and please don't be tardy." Benjamin stared, but had no idea what to say. "Now, if there's nothing else, I really must get on to the next student," Proteus Ajax said. "What do you mean, the next student? Do you mean Andy?" Benjamin asked, feeling just the slightest glimmer of hope that his best friend might have to suffer too. Proteus looked down, then back up. "I have already notified Andy Grove. I'll be seeing you shortly." And without another word, his face vanished. The mirror once again reflected Benjamin's image, and he noticed his gaping mouth. Shutting it, he studied the mirror, touching it with his right hand, and then with both hands. He lifted it away from the wall and looked behind it. Nothing unusual back there. But the Velvet Tiger picture, which sucked his mum up, had looked normal too. Did his parents know about this summer school thing? Had they been the ones to sign him up? And did they know his mirror could talk? For the first day of summer break, things were not going at all like Benjamin had planned. He had no intention of wasting his entire break in summer school, and why had he and Andy been signed up in the first place? With a sigh, he opened his bedroom door. He needed to talk to his parents right away. Benjamin headed downstairs, dodging toy cars flying through the air. As with any morning, chaos had erupted. Becca, his 8-month-old sister, was crying, and Derek and Douglas, his twin 5-year-old brothers, were doing what they always did, telekinesis. They were always levitating something, Benjamin's homework or Becca's rattle. One time they even levitated eggs. Nobody liked to talk about that. Today it was toy cars, no less than 5 each, racing around the room. It still irked Benjamin how good they were at telekinesis. When he'd been their age, he'd hardly been able to lift one, and that was on a good day. Benjamin grabbed one of the cars out of the air. "You guys know you're not supposed to levitate stuff when Mum's not around." "Who's levitating stuff?" Benjamin's Benjamin spun around when his mum walked into the room, and all the other cars immediately hit the floor, so he must have imagined her vanishing. His mum looked down at the pile-up and then looked over at the twins. They shrank under her gaze. And then the excuses started. "It wasn't our fault," Douglas said. "Yeah, not our fault," Derek added. "We just started playing car chase and Benji walked in and ruined everything." "How many times do I have to tell you not to levitate things when I'm not around?" she said. "Telekinesis is not something normal 5-year-old boys can do." "But," Douglas began. His mum put up her hand, stopping Douglas mid-excuse. She looked at the cars on the floor, and they lifted up, gliding over to the basket where 100 more were kept, and dropped in. "What am I going to do with them?" Benjamin heard his mum think as she shook her head. "All right, Benjamin, into the kitchen. We don't have that long," she said aloud, pushing him from behind. Benjamin's dad and Joey Duncan sat at the kitchen table, but when Benjamin and his mum walked in, Joey got up. The only things Benjamin knew about Joey Duncan were he worked with Benjamin's dad, and he was the coolest person in the world. It wasn't just the ponytail and special powers, just like Benjamin's. It was that he never minded when Benjamin used his powers around him. "All I'm saying is that if the escape rate doesn't go down, things are going to change," Benjamin heard Joey's telepathic comment clearly. "What escape rate?" Benjamin replied audibly. Benjamin felt a mind block go up in the room, and no one spoke, at least not aloud. Nor could he hear any more telepathic thoughts. He was almost 13 now. Why did all the grown-ups still exclude him from conversations? He wasn't a baby anymore. "What escape rate?" Benjamin repeated. The mind block went down. "Oh, it's nothing," Joey replied. "I came over to give you a going-away present." Before Benjamin could say that he had no intention of going away, Joey telekinetically tossed an object to him. It stopped in front of Benjamin and rotated in the air. The sphere was multi-layered and constantly changed colors. The pieces didn't look like they could even be turned by hand, and, just for kicks, Benjamin telekinetically reached out and flipped one. "What is it?" Benjamin asked. He'd never seen anything like it before, and was pretty sure Joey hadn't bought it at a Walmart. "It's a kinetic orb," Joey said. "Kind of like a Rubik's Cube, but for smart people." "Wow, thanks," Benjamin replied. "But I'm not going anywhere." But even as he said it, Benjamin knew deep in the pit of his stomach he was. He knew there was no getting out of this summer school thing, whatever it was. "Yeah, whatever," Joey replied. "Anyway, I thought you might like it. The trick is not only to solve all the phases, but to learn to do it with your eyes closed." "How in the world do I do that?" Benjamin asked. "If I told you, it would take all the fun away," Joey replied with a smile. "Anyway, have a great summer, and I'll see you when you get back."